Welcome to my channel, Real English Fluency. Have you ever felt that you know English in your mind, but when you open your mouth, no words come out? Or maybe the words come out slowly, with fear, hesitation, and confusion. The truth is, your problem is not English. Your problem is that your mouth has never been trained to speak English naturally. In this video, I will show you how to train your mouth like a muscle so English starts coming out faster, easier, and more confidently every day. And tell me in the comments, do you understand English better than you speak it? Yes or no? Chapter 1. Why your mouth refuses to speak English even when your brain knows it. Have you ever wondered why you can understand so much English but still struggle to speak it? You watch videos, learn new words, and study grammar for months or even years. Sometimes you feel proud because you understand more than before. You can follow simple conversations. You can understand many sentences in movies and videos. You can read English better than you could in the past. But then someone asks you a simple question in English, and suddenly everything changes. Your mind becomes blank. Your confidence disappears. The words that seemed so clear just a few seconds ago are nowhere to be found. You know this feeling very well. Many English learners experience it almost every day. Some learners become so frustrated that they start believing they are not good at languages. Others think they need to learn thousands more words before they can speak. Some people even feel jealous when they see others speaking English confidently. Deep inside, they ask themselves, why not me? If you have ever had these thoughts, then I want you to pay close attention because what you are about to learn can completely change the way you think about English speaking. The first thing you need to understand is that knowing English and speaking English are not the same skill. This is one of the biggest misunderstandings among language learners. Most people spend their time learning about English. They study grammar rules. They memorize vocabulary. They watch educational videos. They read books and articles. All of these activities are useful. They help your brain recognize English. They help you understand what other people are saying. But speaking is different. Speaking is a physical skill. It is something your mouth must learn through practice. Think about a person who wants to learn how to play the guitar. He can watch hundreds of videos about guitars. He can read books about music. He can learn the names of every guitar part. But if he never touches the guitar and never practices, will he become a good player? Of course not. The same thing happens with English. Many learners spend years collecting knowledge, but very little time actually speaking. Then they wonder why speaking feels difficult. There is something else happening that most learners never think about. For many years, your mouth has been speaking your native language. Every day, your mouth repeats the same sounds, the same patterns, and the same speaking habits. These habits become automatic. You do not think before speaking your native language. The words come naturally because your mouth has practiced them thousands and thousands of times. But English is different. English uses sounds, rhythms, and patterns that may not exist in your first language. When you try to speak English, your mouth is entering unfamiliar territory. It is like asking a person who has never exercised before to suddenly run a marathon. The body is not used to it. It feels uncomfortable. In the same way, your mouth needs time and training before English begins to feel natural. This is where many learners make a serious mistake. They think discomfort means they are failing. They think hesitation means they are bad at English. They think making mistakes means they should stop speaking until they become better. But the opposite is true. The discomfort you feel is actually a sign that you're learning something new. Every fluent English speaker once struggled with words. Every confident speaker once felt nervous. Every person you admire started as a beginner. The difference is that they continued practicing even when it felt uncomfortable. They understood something important. Fluency is not built by waiting. Fluency is built by speaking. Let me tell you something that may surprise you. Your brain probably knows more English than you think. The problem is not that the knowledge is missing. The problem is that your brain and your mouth are not working together smoothly yet. Imagine a warehouse filled with boxes. The boxes represent all the English words and phrases you have learned over the years. They are already there. The challenge is finding them quickly when you need them. When someone asks you a question in English, your brain starts searching through that warehouse. Because speaking practice is limited, the search takes longer. That delay creates hesitation. Hesitation creates nervousness. Nervousness creates even more hesitation. Soon you feel stuck. But this does not mean the knowledge is gone. It simply means the connection between your knowledge and your speaking ability needs to become stronger. Another reason learners struggle is fear. Many people are afraid of making mistakes. They want every sentence to be perfect. They want perfect grammar, perfect pronunciation, and perfect vocabulary. Because of this, they spend too much time thinking before speaking. They check every word in their mind. They worry about every small error. As a result, speaking becomes slow and stressful. But communication is not about perfection. Communication is about expressing your ideas. Children make mistakes every day when they learn a language, yet they continue speaking. They are not worried about being perfect. That is why they improve so quickly. If you want to become a confident English speaker, you must give yourself permission to make mistakes. Mistakes are not proof that you are failing. They are proof that you are practicing. I want you to imagine something. Imagine yourself 6 months from now. You are having a simple conversation in English. The words come out more easily. You feel calmer. You do not panic when someone speaks to you. You are not perfect, but you are improving. That future version of you is not created by learning more grammar alone. That future version is created by training your mouth every day. Small practice sessions, simple speaking exercises, consistent effort. That is how confidence grows. Not in one day, not in one week. But little by little, your mouth becomes stronger, your speech becomes faster, and your fear becomes smaller. The good news is that you do not need special talent to achieve this. You do not need a perfect accent. You do not need a genius brain. You simply need the right training and the willingness to practice. The struggle you face today is not permanent. It is just a stage in your journey. Every fluent speaker has passed through this stage. The question is not whether you can improve. The real question is whether you are willing to keep going. And now that you understand why your mouth struggles to speak English, there is another hidden problem that keeps many learners stuck for years without realizing it. It quietly destroys confidence and prevents progress. In the next chapter, you will discover exactly what that problem is and how to overcome it. That lesson alone can change the way you learn English forever. Chapter 2: The hidden habit that is silently destroying your speaking confidence. Now that you understand why your mouth struggles to speak English even when your brain knows many words, it is time to talk about another problem. This problem is much more dangerous because most learners do not even realize it exists. It quietly follows them every day. It steals their confidence. It slows their progress. It keeps them stuck in the same place for months and sometimes even years. The strange thing is that this habit often looks like a good thing. Many learners believe it helps them improve, but in reality, it does the opposite. The habit I'm talking about is the desire to speak perfectly before speaking at all. Think about what happens when you want to say something in English. Before you open your mouth, your brain starts asking questions. Is my grammar correct? Am I using the right word? What if I make a mistake? What if people laugh at me? What if my pronunciation sounds strange? What if I embarrass myself? These thoughts move through your mind so quickly that you may not even notice them. But they are there, and every time they appear, they create hesitation. Instead of speaking naturally, you start checking every word. You start editing every sentence before it leaves your mouth. You become so focused on avoiding mistakes that you forget the real purpose of speaking, which is communication. Many English learners believe that confident speakers never make mistakes. That is simply not true. Even native speakers make mistakes. They forget words, they mix up sentences, they correct themselves. It happens every day. The difference is that they do not stop speaking because of it. They keep going. But many learners have created an impossible rule for themselves. They believe they must speak perfectly, and because perfection is impossible, they end up speaking very little. Imagine a child learning to walk. The child stands up, takes a few steps, falls down, and tries again. Nobody expects the child to walk perfectly on the first day. Nobody says, "Come back when you can walk without falling." We understand that falling is part of learning, yet when it comes to English, many adults expect perfection immediately. They make one mistake and become disappointed. They pronounce one word incorrectly and lose confidence. They forget one sentence and start thinking they are bad at English. This way of thinking creates fear, and fear is one of the biggest enemies of fluency. The truth is simple. The people who improve the fastest are usually not the people who make the fewest mistakes. They are the people who are willing to make the most mistakes. That may sound strange, but it is true. Every mistake teaches you something. Every conversation gives your brain more experience. Every time you try to speak, your mouth becomes a little stronger. Progress comes from action, not from waiting. I want you to think about your own experience. How many times have you stayed silent even though you knew what you wanted to say? How many times have you chosen not to speak because you were afraid of making a mistake? Maybe you were in a class. Maybe you were talking to a friend. Maybe you were practicing online. You had an idea in your mind, but fear stopped you. This happens to millions of learners. They know more than they speak. Their potential is much bigger than their performance because fear is standing between them and their progress. Here is something important that many people never realize. Confidence does not come before speaking. Confidence comes from speaking. Many learners are waiting to feel confident before they start talking. They tell themselves, "I will speak when I feel ready." But that day never comes. Why? Because readiness is created through practice. Imagine a person who wants to learn swimming. If he waits until he feels confident before entering the water, he may wait forever. Confidence grows when he enters the water, practices regularly, and realizes that he can do more than he thought. English works exactly the same way. This is why you must stop treating mistakes like enemies. Start treating them like teachers. Every mistake gives you information. Every mistake shows you what needs improvement. Every mistake moves you one step closer to fluency. The learners who become successful are not the learners who avoid mistakes. They are the learners who learn from them. Another problem with perfectionism is that it makes speaking feel stressful. Instead of enjoying the process, you begin seeing every conversation as a test. You feel pressure. You become nervous. Your mind becomes crowded with worries. And when the mind is crowded with worries, speaking becomes harder. The words do not flow naturally. You start overthinking. The conversation becomes exhausting. Now imagine a different approach. Imagine you give yourself permission to speak imperfectly. You focus on communication instead of perfection. You accept that mistakes will happen. Suddenly, the pressure becomes smaller. You feel more relaxed. You speak more often. And because you speak more often, you improve faster. This is one of the biggest secrets of language learning. There are people who know advanced grammar but cannot hold a simple conversation because they are too afraid to make mistakes. At the same time, there are people with basic grammar who communicate confidently because they are willing to speak. Which person improves faster? Usually, it is the person who speaks. Speaking creates experience. Experience creates confidence. Confidence creates more speaking. This cycle leads to fluency. From today, I want you to make a simple promise to yourself. Stop waiting for perfect English. Stop waiting for the perfect vocabulary. Stop waiting for the perfect pronunciation. Speak with what you know right now. Use the words you already have. Build sentences with the knowledge you already possess. Every conversation is practice. Every sentence is progress. Every attempt matters. Remember this carefully. Your goal is not to speak perfect English. Your goal is to communicate clearly and confidently. Perfection can come later. Fluency grows through action. The more you speak, the more natural English becomes. The more natural English becomes, the less fear you feel. And the less fear you feel, the faster you improve. By now, you understand why perfectionism is holding many learners back. But knowing this is not enough. You also need a practical way to train your speaking ability every day. You need a system that strengthens your mouth, improves your confidence, and makes English feel more natural. In the next chapter, you will learn exactly how to train your mouth like a muscle so that speaking English becomes easier, faster, and more comfortable with every passing day. Chapter 3. How to train your mouth like a muscle and make English feel natural. Now you know that perfection is not the goal. The real goal is practice. But this brings us to an important question. If speaking English is a skill, then how do you actually improve it? How do you make your mouth speak English more naturally? How do you stop feeling awkward every time you open your mouth? The answer is simpler than most people think. You train your mouth the same way you train a muscle. Think about someone who wants stronger arms. Reading fitness books will not make their arms stronger. Watching exercise videos will not make their arms stronger. Even understanding how muscles work will not make their arms stronger. At some point, they must start exercising. They must repeat the same movements again and again until their muscles become stronger. Speaking English works in a very similar way. Your mouth, tongue, lips, and voice need practice. They need repetition. They need training. The more you use them in English, the more comfortable they become. Many learners spend most of their time listening, reading, and studying. These activities are useful, but they do not fully train the speaking skill. Imagine someone learning to play the piano. Listening to music helps. Reading about music helps. But the real improvement happens when their fingers touch the keys and start playing. In English, your mouth is like those fingers. It needs real practice. It needs daily movement. It needs experience. One reason English feels difficult is because your mouth is trying to produce sounds that it does not use every day. Some English sounds may not exist in your native language. Some word combinations may feel strange. Some sentences may feel uncomfortable. This is completely normal. Many learners think that discomfort means they are doing something wrong. In reality, discomfort often means you are learning something new. When you exercise a muscle for the first time, it feels weak. That does not mean you should stop. It means you should continue training. The same is true for speaking English. One of the best ways to train your mouth is to read English aloud every day. Notice that I said aloud, not silently. When you read silently, your brain is working, but your mouth is resting. When you read aloud, both your brain and your mouth are working together. This creates a stronger connection between understanding and speaking. You do not need difficult material. In fact, simple English is often better. Read short stories, read easy articles, read dialogues. Read anything that matches your level. The important thing is that your mouth is producing English sounds every day. At first, you may feel slow, some words may feel difficult, some sentences may sound strange. That is perfectly fine. Remember, the goal is not perfection. The goal is training. Every time you read aloud, you're teaching your mouth how English sounds and feels. Little by little, those sounds become more natural. Another powerful exercise is repetition. Choose a short English sentence and repeat it several times. Listen carefully to how it sounds, then say it again, and again, and again. This may seem simple, but simple things often create the biggest results. Athletes repeat basic movements thousands of times. Musicians repeat the same songs many times. Language learners should do the same. Repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity creates confidence. Many learners make another mistake. They think they need long study sessions to improve. They believe they must spend hours speaking every day. Because they cannot find hours of free time, they end up doing nothing. But consistency is more important than intensity. 10 minutes of speaking every day is often better than 2 hours once a week. Daily practice keeps English active in your mind. It keeps your mouth moving. It builds momentum. Imagine two learners. One practices speaking for 10 minutes every day. The other practices for 2 hours only once every 2 weeks. After a few months, who do you think will speak more comfortably? Usually, it is the person who practiced consistently. Small daily actions create big long-term results. This is true in fitness, music, sports, and language learning. There is another exercise that many successful learners use. Talk to yourself in English. Some people feel strange when they hear this idea, but it is extremely effective. You do not need a conversation partner every time you want to practice. You can describe what you're doing. You can talk about your plans. You can describe the objects around you. You can tell yourself what happened during your day. The goal is simple. Keep your mouth moving in English. For example, if you're making tea, you can say, I am making tea. The water is hot. I need a cup. These sentences are simple, but they train your speaking ability. They help English become part of your daily life instead of something that exists only inside books and videos. As you continue practicing, something interesting begins to happen. The words start coming faster. The pauses become shorter. The fear becomes smaller. You begin noticing that speaking feels a little easier than before. These changes may seem small at first, but they are signs of progress. Many learners quit because they expect dramatic results overnight. Language learning does not work that way. Improvement often happens slowly and quietly. Then one day you realize that something which once felt difficult now feels normal. This is why patience is so important. Every time you practice, you are building something valuable. Even when progress feels slow, your brain and your mouth are learning. Every sentence you speak matters. Every minute of practice matters. Every effort counts. I want you to remember one important truth. Fluency is not magic. It is not a gift given only to certain people. It is a skill built through repetition. The people who speak English confidently today were not born with that ability. They developed it through practice. They trained their mouths again and again until speaking became natural. And here's the exciting part. There is a method that can speed up this process even more. It is a technique used by many successful language learners around the world. It helps improve pronunciation, rhythm, confidence, and speaking speed at the same time. In the next chapter, you will discover the shadowing method and learn why it can transform your English much faster than traditional study methods. Stay with me because this could become one of the most powerful tools in your entire English learning journey. Chapter 4. The shadowing method that can transform your English faster than traditional study. By now, you understand something very important. Speaking English is not just about learning words and grammar, it is about training your mouth. It is about creating new habits. It is about giving your brain and your mouth enough practice to work together smoothly. But there is one question many learners ask at this point. They say, I understand that I need practice, but what is the best way to practice? This is where one of the most powerful speaking techniques comes in. It is called shadowing. The name may sound unusual, but the idea is very simple. And once you understand it, you may wonder why nobody told you about it earlier. Think about how children learn language. They listen carefully. Then they copy what they hear. They repeat words, phrases, and sounds again and again. They do not start by studying complicated grammar rules. They start by imitation. This natural process is one of the reasons children become fluent speakers. Shadowing uses the same principle. You listen to a native speaker or a fluent English speaker, and then you repeat what you hear as closely as possible. You copy the pronunciation, you copy the rhythm, you copy the speed, you copy the way the sentence flows. In simple words, you become a shadow of the speaker. Now, you might be thinking, can something this simple really help me? The answer is yes. In fact, it helps in several ways at the same time. Most English learning activities improve only one skill. Reading improves reading. Listening improves listening. Vocabulary study improves vocabulary. But shadowing trains many skills together. It improves your pronunciation, it improves your listening, it improves your speaking confidence, it improves your rhythm. It helps your mouth become familiar with natural English patterns. That is why many successful language learners use it regularly. Let us imagine a simple example. You hear someone say, "Today is a beautiful day." Instead of only listening, you immediately repeat the sentence. You say, "Today is a beautiful day." Then you listen again and repeat again. You pay attention to how the words connect. You notice the rhythm. You notice where the speaker speaks faster and where the speaker slows down. Little by little, your mouth starts learning these patterns naturally. One reason shadowing works so well is because it removes a major problem that many learners face. Normally, when you try to speak, you must think of the words yourself. You must build the sentence yourself. This can feel stressful. But during shadowing, the sentence is already there. Your job is simply to repeat it. This allows you to focus completely on speaking. It allows your mouth to practice without the pressure of creating new sentences. Over time, these speaking patterns become familiar, and your confidence grows. Many learners spend years listening to English without speaking along. They watch videos, they listen to podcasts, they enjoy movies. These activities are useful, but they often remain passive. Shadowing turns listening into active practice. Instead of being a spectator, you become a participant. Your mouth is no longer resting. It is working, and every time it works, it becomes stronger. Another reason learners love shadowing is that they can do it almost anywhere. You do not need expensive courses. You do not need a classroom. You do not even need a speaking partner. All you need is a short piece of English audio. It could be a YouTube video. It could be a podcast. It could be an English lesson. The important thing is choosing content that matches your level. If the material is too difficult, you may become frustrated. If it is too easy, you may not challenge yourself enough. Find something you can mostly understand and start there. At first, shadowing may feel difficult. The speaker may talk faster than you can follow. You may miss some words. You may struggle with pronunciation. This is completely normal. Remember how we talked about training muscles? When you begin exercising, the movements feel difficult, but with repetition, they become easier. Shadowing works the same way. The first few days may feel challenging, but if you stay consistent, you will notice improvement. Many learners make the mistake of focusing only on accent. They want to sound exactly like a native speaker. While good pronunciation is important, your main goal should not be copying every detail of someone's accent. Your goal is clear communication and natural speech. Focus on rhythm, focus on flow, focus on speaking smoothly. A perfect accent is not necessary for successful communication. Let me tell you something encouraging. You do not need hours of shadowing every day. Even 10 or 15 minutes can make a difference if you do it consistently. What matters most is repetition. The more often you expose your mouth to natural English patterns, the more comfortable those patterns become. Day after day, your speaking ability grows. There is also a hidden benefit that many learners discover after a few weeks. Their confidence starts increasing. Why? Because they are no longer hearing English only with their ears. They are producing English with their own voice. They begin feeling what natural English sounds like. They become familiar with common expressions and sentence structures. English starts feeling less foreign and more familiar. Imagine yourself a few weeks from now. You play an English audio clip. You repeat the sentences. The words come out more smoothly than before. You hesitate less. You feel more relaxed. This progress may seem small, but these small improvements add up. Over time, they create a big transformation. The best part is that shadowing helps build a bridge between listening and speaking. Many learners understand English when they hear it, but struggle when they try to respond. Shadowing helps close that gap. It teaches your brain and your mouth to work together more effectively. It turns passive knowledge into active ability. But there is still another challenge that stops many learners from reaching fluency. Even after learning powerful techniques like shadowing, many people still do not speak enough. They tell themselves, "I have nobody to practice with." They believe they cannot improve because they do not have English-speaking friends or conversation partners. This belief keeps them stuck for years. In the next chapter, I am going to show you why that belief is completely wrong and how you can practice speaking English every single day, even if you are completely alone. What you are about to learn may remove one of the biggest excuses that learners have ever used. Chapter 5. How to speak English every day, even if you have nobody to practice with. Now we come to one of the biggest frustrations that English learners face. In fact, there is a good chance that you have said these words yourself. Maybe you have said them many times. I want to speak English, but I have nobody to practice with. For many learners, this feels like a huge problem. They believe they cannot improve because they do not have foreign friends. They do not live in an English-speaking country. They do not have a teacher available all the time. They do not have people around them who want to speak English. Because of this, they start waiting. They wait for the perfect opportunity. They wait for the perfect partner. They wait for the perfect situation. Days pass. Weeks pass. Months pass. But their speaking ability stays in the same place because they are still waiting. The truth is that this belief has stopped countless learners from reaching their potential. Many people think speaking practice only happens during conversations with other people. But that is not true. Real speaking practice can happen almost anywhere and at almost any time. Once you understand this, your entire learning journey can change. Think about athletes for a moment. Do they only practice when they are competing? Of course not. Most of their training happens long before the competition begins. Musicians do not wait for a concert before practicing. They practice alone for hours. The same idea applies to English speaking. Before you become comfortable speaking with others, you must become comfortable speaking by yourself. One of the most powerful techniques is something called self-talk. The name sounds simple because it is simple. You speak English to yourself. Some learners hear this idea and immediately think it sounds strange. But if you look closely, you already talk to yourself every day. You think about your plans. You think about your problems. You think about what you need to do next. The only difference is that you usually do it in your native language. What if you started doing some of that thinking out loud in English? Imagine that you wake up in the morning. You can say simple sentences like, "I am waking up now. I need to brush my teeth. Today will be a busy day." When you prepare breakfast, you can describe what you're doing. "I am making coffee. The water is hot. The food smells good." These are not complicated sentences. That is exactly why they work. They allow you to practice speaking without pressure. Many learners believe they need advanced vocabulary before they can practice. This is another mistake. Fluency does not begin with difficult words. It begins with simple words used consistently. If you can describe your daily life in simple English, you are already building an important speaking habit. Another effective method is describing your surroundings. Look around your room right now. What do you see? A chair, a table, a phone, a window? Start talking about them in English. Describe their color, describe their size, describe their location. These small exercises train your brain to think and speak in English at the same time. The more often you do this, the easier it becomes. There is another technique that many successful learners use. They record themselves speaking. At first, this may feel uncomfortable. Most people do not enjoy hearing their own voice. But recording yourself is one of the fastest ways to improve. You can talk about your day for 1 minute. You can describe your goals. You can share your opinions on a simple topic. Then listen to the recording. You may notice mistakes. You may notice places where you hesitated. That is good. Awareness helps improvement. What makes this technique powerful is that it shows you your real speaking ability. Many learners think they are worse than they actually are. Others discover specific areas they need to improve. Either way, recording yourself gives valuable feedback. There is also a simple habit that can transform ordinary moments into speaking practice. Start narrating your life in English. If you are walking somewhere, describe what you see. If you are driving, talk about the road and the weather. If you are cleaning your room, explain what you're doing. These activities may seem small, but together they create hours of speaking practice over time. The beautiful thing about these methods is that they remove the need to depend on other people. Of course, speaking with real people is valuable, but you do not need to wait for those opportunities. You can begin building your speaking ability right now, exactly where you are. Many learners spend years saying, "I cannot practice because I have nobody to talk to." But the reality is that opportunities for practice are everywhere. Your daily life is full of speaking opportunities. The problem is not the lack of opportunities. The problem is that most learners do not recognize them. Let me share an important truth. Every confident conversation you see is built on hundreds of private practice sessions that nobody ever sees. Before people speak confidently in public, they usually spend a lot of time practicing in private. The same will be true for you. The conversations you want in the future are built by the habits you create today. This is why consistency matters so much. You do not need to speak for hours every day. Even 10 or 15 minutes of focused speaking practice can create noticeable progress over time. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to keep your mouth active. The goal is to make English a normal part of your daily life. As you continue practicing, something exciting begins to happen. Speaking feels less scary. You become more comfortable hearing your own voice in English. Your sentences become smoother. Your confidence starts growing. Little by little, English stops feeling like a school subject and starts feeling like a real language that you can use. But there is still another obstacle that slows down many learners, even after they start speaking regularly. This obstacle hides inside the mind. It forces learners to pause before almost every sentence. It makes conversations slower and more stressful than they need to be. It is the habit of translating everything before speaking. In the next chapter, you will discover how to stop translating in your head and start thinking in English. This shift can make a huge difference in your fluency, because true confidence begins when your thoughts and your speech start working together naturally. And once that happens, speaking English becomes much easier than you ever imagined. Chapter 6. Stop translating in your head and start thinking in English. You have already learned why your mouth needs training. You have learned why perfectionism slows you down. You have learned how to practice speaking even when you are alone. But there is another challenge that keeps many learners from speaking smoothly. This challenge is so common that most people do not even realize it is happening. It happens in just a few seconds, yet it can make speaking feel difficult and exhausting. The challenge is translating every sentence in your head before you speak. Think about what happens when someone asks you a question in English. First, you hear the question. Then you translate it into your native language. After that, you think of an answer in your native language. Then you try to translate that answer into English. Then you check the grammar. Then you search for the right words. Finally, you speak. By the time all of this is finished, several seconds have passed. The conversation feels slow. You feel pressure. You become nervous because the other person is waiting for your answer. This is one of the biggest reasons many learners struggle with fluency. It is not because they are not intelligent. It is not because they do not know enough vocabulary. It is because they are trying to travel through two languages every time they want to say something. Imagine trying to drive to a place that is only 5 minutes away, but taking a long route every single time. You will eventually arrive, but the journey will be much slower than necessary. When fluent speakers communicate, they usually do not translate everything. They connect ideas directly to words. When they see a dog, they think dog. They do not first think of the word in another language and then translate it. This direct connection is one of the reasons fluent speech feels fast and natural. Now, many learners hear this and immediately think, "But I cannot think in English. My English is too basic." That is a very common fear. The good news is that thinking in English does not require advanced vocabulary. In fact, it often begins with very simple thoughts. The goal is not to create long, complicated sentences. The goal is to build the habit of connecting your thoughts directly to English. Let us start with something simple. Look around you right now. What do you see? Maybe you see a chair, a table, a phone, or a window. Instead of naming these things in your native language, try naming them in English. It sounds small, but this is where the process begins. Your brain starts creating direct connections. The object and the English word become linked together. You can take this idea further throughout the day. When you're walking, think simple thoughts in English. The weather is nice today. I need to buy some food. I am going to work. I feel tired. These are not difficult sentences, but they are powerful because they train your brain to operate in English without translation. At first, this may feel slow. You may struggle to find the right words. That is completely normal. Remember, you are building a new habit. Every new habit feels uncomfortable in the beginning. When you first learned to ride a bicycle, you probably felt awkward. You had to think about every movement. But after enough practice, riding became natural. Thinking in English follows the same pattern. One mistake many learners make is believing they need to think perfectly in English. They worry about grammar even inside their own thoughts. This creates unnecessary pressure. Your private thoughts do not need to be perfect. The goal is practice, not perfection. If your thought is simple, that is fine. If the grammar is not perfect, that is also fine. The important thing is that your brain is spending more time working directly in English. Another useful exercise is creating small conversations in your mind. Imagine someone asking you a simple question, then answer it in English. For example, imagine someone asks, "What did you do today?" You can answer in your mind, "I worked in the morning, then I watched a video. After that, I went for a walk." This exercise prepares your brain for real conversations. It helps you practice without pressure. There is also a powerful technique called visual thinking. Instead of translating words, connect English directly to images. For example, when you hear the word apple, do not think of the translation. Picture an apple in your mind. This creates a direct connection between the English word and the object itself. Over time, this habit can make your thinking much faster. Many learners become discouraged because they cannot think in English all day. The truth is that nobody starts that way. This skill develops gradually. Maybe today you think in English for 1 minute. Next week it becomes 5 minutes. Later it becomes 10. Little by little, your brain becomes more comfortable operating in English. One of the most exciting things about this process is that it reduces the distance between thought and speech. Right now, there may be several steps between what you want to say and what actually comes out of your mouth. As you practice thinking in English, those steps become fewer. Your response becomes faster. Your speaking becomes smoother. Conversations begin to feel more natural. This is an important moment in your journey, because many learners spend years focusing only on vocabulary and grammar while ignoring the way they think. But fluency is not only about knowing English, it is about using English quickly and comfortably. When you reduce translation, you create more space for natural communication. Imagine yourself a few months from now. Someone asks you a simple question in English. Instead of translating everything, your answer comes more naturally. You do not panic. You do not search desperately for every word. You simply communicate. That is the direction you are moving toward, and here is something important to remember. Fluency is not speaking very fast. Many learners believe fluent people talk quickly, but speed is not the real goal. The real goal is reducing the gap between your thoughts and your speech. When that gap becomes smaller, speaking feels easier. Confidence grows. Communication becomes smoother. You have now learned many powerful ideas. You understand the speaking problem. You understand the danger of perfectionism. You know how to train your mouth. You know how to use shadowing. You know how to practice alone. You know how to start thinking in English. But knowledge alone will not change your life. What creates results is consistent action. That is why in the final chapter, we are going to bring everything together into a simple 30-day mouth training challenge. This challenge will help you turn these ideas into daily habits. If you follow it consistently, you can build more confidence, more fluency, and a much stronger speaking habit. The final chapter is where everything comes together, and it may be the most important part of this entire journey. Chapter 7. The 30-Day Mouth Training Challenge that can change your English forever. You have reached the final chapter, and before we move forward, I want you to think about everything you have learned so far. You discovered that understanding English and speaking English are two different skills. You learned that perfectionism can quietly destroy your confidence. You learned how to train your mouth like a muscle. You discovered the power of shadowing. You learned how to practice even when nobody is around. And you learned how to reduce translation and start thinking more in English. These ideas are powerful, but there is one thing you must always remember. Information does not create results. Action creates results. Many learners watch videos, feel motivated, and then do nothing. For a few hours, they feel excited. They tell themselves that this time will be different. They promise themselves that they will practice every day. But after a few days, life becomes busy. The motivation becomes weaker. Old habits return. Then a few weeks later, they are in the same place, wondering why nothing changed. I do not want that to happen to you. That is why I want to give you a simple challenge, not a complicated challenge. Not a challenge that requires hours of study every day. A challenge that almost anyone can do. A challenge that focuses on consistency instead of perfection, because real progress comes from small actions repeated again and again. For the next 30 days, I want you to train your mouth every single day. Even if you only have a few minutes, even if you feel tired, even if you make mistakes. The goal is simple. Keep showing up. During the first week, focus on building the habit. Read English aloud for 5 to 10 minutes every day. Choose simple material that you can understand. Do not worry about speed. Do not worry about sounding perfect. Just keep your mouth moving. The purpose of this week is to wake up your speaking muscles. Many learners spend years learning silently. This week is about changing that habit. At the same time, spend a few minutes talking to yourself in English. Describe your day. Describe your room. Describe your plans. Keep it simple. The goal is not impressive English. The goal is regular English. Every sentence you speak is another step forward. During the second week, add shadowing to your routine. Find a short English video or audio recording that matches your level. Listen carefully and repeat what you hear. Focus on rhythm and flow. Do not stop every time you make a mistake. Keep going. Let your mouth become familiar with natural English patterns. You may notice that some sentences become easier after repeating them several times. That is a sign that your speaking muscles are getting stronger. During this week, continue reading aloud and talking to yourself. Remember, fluency is built through repetition. The more often your mouth uses English, the more natural English begins to feel. During the third week, start paying attention to your thoughts. Whenever possible, think simple thoughts in English. When you wake up, think in English. When you walk somewhere, think in English. When you look around, name things in English. You do not need complicated sentences. Simple thoughts are enough. The goal is to build a direct connection between your mind and the English language. You may notice that your brain still wants to translate sometimes. That is normal. Do not become frustrated. Just gently bring your attention back to English. Every small effort helps strengthen the habit. During the fourth week, combine everything you have learned. Read aloud, use shadowing, talk to yourself. Think in English. If possible, have short conversations with other people in English. Even if the conversations are simple, they are valuable at this stage. You are no longer just learning about English. You are actively using English every day. Now, something important needs to be said. There will be days when you do not feel motivated. There will be days when progress feels slow. There will be days when you make mistakes and feel disappointed. This happens to everyone. Successful learners are not people who feel motivated every day. Successful learners are people who continue even when motivation is low. Imagine two people starting this challenge today. One person practices consistently for 30 days. The other person keeps waiting for the perfect time to begin. Which person will be closer to fluency after a month? The answer is obvious. Small daily actions always beat good intentions. And here is what many learners do not realize. Progress is often invisible at first. You may not notice huge changes after one day or even 1 week. But if you compare yourself today with who you were a month ago, the difference can be surprising. Your confidence becomes stronger. Your hesitation becomes smaller. Your speaking becomes smoother. These improvements happen little by little, but they are real. I want you to picture yourself 1 year from now. There are two possible futures. In the first future, you continue waiting. You continue watching videos without practicing. You continue telling yourself that you will start someday. 1 year passes and nothing changes. In the second future, you start today. You practice regularly. You make mistakes. You learn from them. You build habits. 1 year later, you speak with more confidence than you ever imagined possible. Which future do you want? The choice is yours. The good news is that you do not need to become fluent overnight. You only need to take the next step. Then the next one. Then the next one. Fluency is not built in a single day. It is built through hundreds of small actions that seem ordinary at the time, but become extraordinary when combined over months and years. Never forget this. The people who speak English confidently today were once beginners too. They struggled. They hesitated. They made mistakes, but they kept going. And because they kept going, they improved. You can do the same. Your dream of speaking English confidently is not impossible. It is not reserved for a special group of people. It belongs to anyone who is willing to practice consistently and refuse to quit. Every sentence you speak is progress. Every mistake is a lesson. Every day of practice brings you closer to the person you want to become. So start today, not next week, not next month. Today, train your mouth, trust the process, keep speaking, keep learning, keep growing. The English speaker you want to become is created by the actions you take from this moment forward. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss future lessons. And most importantly, go to the comments right now and write, "I will train my mouth every day." I want to see your commitment, and I want to support you on your English learning journey. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Keep practicing and keep moving forward. Your English journey starts now.